What is learning analytics? This screencast aims to answer that question and to provide basic background knowledge for anyone who has heard of learning analytics but really is unsure of what it is and how it's used in K-12 education. My name is Michelle Schonenberger. I'm the K-12 Math and Science Supervisor at Northampton Area School District in Northampton, Pennsylvania. I'm also a doctoral student at East Stroudsburg University. I hope you find the screencast informative and an inspiration for you to look further into learning analytics and the potential that learning analytics tools has in the field of education. The goal of the screencast is to provide background on what is meant by the term learning analytics. In doing so, I hope to answer the following questions. Why is learning analytics important? What is learning analytics? What's the difference between educational data mining and learning analytics? What are some examples of how learning analytics is currently being used in education? And what is the future of learning analytics? Before we talk specifically about learning analytics, let's just talk about analytics and data analytics in general. Analytics is an umbrella term for the use of data, statistical analysis, and explanatory and predictive models to gain insights and act on complex issues. I'm sure we can all relate to some experience of data analytics being used. For example, if you've ever shopped online for maybe a new pair of sneakers or a new article of clothing, and then all of a sudden every website you go on has an ad for the exact pair of sneakers or that shirt that you were previously searching for online. That's a prime example of companies collecting data in the form of our digital footprint and using data analytics to predict our searching habits and using that information to specifically target advertisements. That collection of data, organizing it to predict patterns and trends, and then using it for a specific purpose is not only done in business and industry, but also in healthcare, the government, and now, more than ever, in the field of education. So why learning analytics? Why do we even care? Dr. Kim McKay, who has played an integral role in the University Michigan's initiative to use learning analytics, said it best. Learning analytics is about students. It's about making the education system better, more vibrant, more responsive, more personalized. I think it's important to keep this in mind, especially with the influx and the increase of technology in our schools in terms of one-to-one programs, improved apps, and programs for these devices. It's really easy to get hung up on just using the technology, but how can we use that technology to transform education and improve learning for our students? Dr. Simon Buckingham-Shum identifies that there's a transformation going on in other scientific fields because of big data and automated analytics, and recognizes that the study of learning and teaching may be standing on the threshold of a similar revolution, where for the first time, learners can be studied at a scale and fidelity of action which was previously impractical. The U.S. Department of Education has also recognized this, and that data that has previously gone unseen, unnoticed, and therefore unactionable is going to be able to become accessible by us to use to improve education. Being able to study students at learning at a whole other level will hopefully lead to improved instructional strategies, because as Greg Cottrell recognizes, the role of the teacher has changed in the 21st century classroom, and so have the instructional design strategies that should be utilized. So what exactly is learning analytics? At the first Learning Analytics and Knowledge Conference held in 2011, learning analytics was defined as the measurement, collection, analysis, and reporting of data about learners and their context for the purposes of understanding and optimizing learning and the environments in which it occurs. It's important to understand where learning analytics falls within the realm of using big data in education. Big data is a term that refers to any and all types of data that's captured by users' online behavior or their digital footprint. There are two areas of research that utilize big data in education, and they're educational data mining and learning analytics. Greg Cottrell articulated the difference very well. He said, data mining is when computer programs apply coded logic in an attempt to make decisions about learning, as opposed to learning analytics is when humans make decisions about learning based on that human data. So educational data mining is really about automated discovery by applying those statistical models and algorithms and finding relationships among the data. While learning analytics really seeks to understand a whole system, it informs and empowers the instructors and learners, and that human judgment plays a key role in utilizing that data in a productive way. In an effort to give you more background on learning analytics, I think it's valuable to discuss different ways that individuals have classified and described learning analytics. So I only did 3 examples here, but I thought it was a way for you to start to construct your own understanding of learning analytics. So we're going to look at how learning analytics is classified and described by outcome in reference to learning design and by application area. Descriptive analytics refers to discovering patterns within student data. In terms of a weather forecast, an example of an outcome of descriptive analytics would be, it rained yesterday. Another outcome a teacher may be looking for is to predict future trends in student progress. In that case, predictive analytics would be used, and that would be the equivalent of a meteorologist saying that there's a 40% chance of rain today. Or finally, prescriptive analytics would be the weatherman's equivalent to saying there's an 80% chance of rain tomorrow, pack your umbrella. Recommendations or interventions may be given, such as bringing an umbrella, or a recommendation may be given to a student based on the results of how he or she is progressing through a course. Another way to talk about learning analytics is a framework that was described by Lockyer, Heathcote, and Dawson, who conducted research about intended outcomes of specific learning design. And in their framework about learning analytics, they classified the data into checkpoint analytics and process analytics. So checkpoint analytics would be information such as how many times a student logged in to a specific program or learning management system. Did they access information that was made available? Did they or not participate in discussions? While process analytics would be the actual engagement in the learning process. So the digital footprint of how the student collaborated in discussion boards or worked on a collaborative document. Finally, different applications of learning analytics was described by the U.S. Department of Education. So if you want to use learning analytics for modeling, it may be to answer some of the following questions, like what content does the student know? What patterns of student behavior mean for their learning? Are users satisfied with the experience? Learning analytics could also be used for profiling or putting groups into certain clusters based on characteristics. Could also be used for domain modeling. What is the correct level at which to divide topics into modules, and how should these modules be sequenced? So that's really getting more into using learning analytics for instructional design. The fourth application of learning analytics is learning component analysis and instructional principle analysis, which could help to answer the question, which components are effective at promoting learning? Again, getting into that instructional design. And also, learning analytics can be used for trend analysis. What changes over time and how does it change over time? Now that we've established different ways that learning analytics are described and can be organized, it would be appropriate to talk about the tools that utilize learning analytics. Malcolm Brown recognized that any institutional program involving analytics must have both robust technology to harness and analyze data and effective plans and processes for acting on the results of the analysis. So you need the tools, but you also need a plan in place to make the data actionable. So here's a chart that summarizes some of these learning analytic tools that maybe you've heard about or are familiar with. Examples such as learning management systems like Blackboard, Moodle, Desire to Learn, Schoology utilize reports and can track user information. Social network analysis tools such as Snap can be used to help visualize students' relationships through participation in discussions and those interactions on a learning management system. Other tools utilize data dashboards to help visualize student activity or task completion, achievement data, such as Study Island and USA Test Prep. Those are programs that students work on, and so the data dashboards would provide not only the individual student, but also the teacher and possibly administration information about how the student is progressing through those programs. Data warehousing programs a lot of schools use to house all of their student data, which could be academic behavior, and where they can run reports, and many also have data dashboards that give quick summaries of key information. And then you have adaptive learning platforms that use those prescriptive analytics and intelligent tutoring software to customize learning paths for students. So as students work through these programs such as Front Row, Success Maker, or Newton, they work through these programs and then the computer recommends changes to their learning path or recommends that to the instructor based on the data and how they're doing in that program. So what is the future of learning analytics? The future is all going to depend on how much effort, research, and energy is put into learning about how learning analytics can positively impact education. The U.S. Department of Education put out a few recommendations for both educators and administrators and researchers in terms of learning analytics. For educators and administrators, they encourage developing a culture of using data, starting small, finding success, and then expanding their use to communicate with students and parents about how we're using data and how it can be helpful, and to help align state policies to support online learning systems. For researchers, they're recommending to conduct more research and to help instructors become more effective with data. Their final recommendation is to create and continue strong collaboration across research, commercial, and educational sectors. I think that we can all agree that with collaboration, strong research efforts, and continued enthusiasm by educators, that the future of analytics is promising in transforming education in the United States. I hope you've enjoyed this screencast and that you've achieved the goal of this presentation in improving your background knowledge on learning analytics. Let's summarize the major takeaways from the screencast. We started with the why learning analytics, and what it comes down to is about the student and how can we improve student learning and really transform the learning process for students. Then we talked about learning analytics, and how it uses data to empower instructors and learners, while educational data mining focuses more on applying automated models to data. Then in efforts of better conceptualizing learning analytics, we discussed various ways to classify and describe types of learning analytics, such as checkpoint analytics and process analytics. And then I gave you some examples of different tools that currently utilize learning analytics, such as adaptive learning systems like Front Row and Newton. And then what's the future? There needs to be continued efforts of collaboration and research in order to explore the new possibilities of learning analytics, the use of learning analytics to transform the field of education. I want to leave you with one